What is going on, friends? Almost Average here, and it has been a long time in the making, but the 100-day series is finally here. This video obviously took a long time to make, about 40 hours in total to produce, so if you enjoy it, be sure to drop a like on it, and if you're new to our channel, hit that subscribe button as well so you can stick around and see all the rest of our Minecraft content. If you want to see more of this Let's Play, I'm actually doing a day-by-day Let's Play over on my personal channel, Almost Average. It's linked down in the description below, so you can go and check that out and see all the progress I'm making. The first episode of the After 100 Days is already up, so you can see what I did in the 25 days after this episode. So loading into this world, we spawned in a pretty amazing location. We had a mesa biome, an ice biome all right near us, and I figured the best way to start off would be actually to build a boat and just kind of ride around this area and maybe find some tools and things like that in these shipwrecks that are of course going to be in the ocean biome. And I actually found a total of 3 shipwrecks. It was a very successful boat ride. Because of this, I actually managed to get an iron pickaxe and some diamonds right off the start, so it was actually a very great start to the hardcore world. I'd gone through a lot of attempts of doing this series, and it was definitely very fulfilling to get a great start right off the bat with a bunch of different ships. This was one of my best starts to hardcore Minecraft and really gave me a lot of hope for surviving a long time in this series. After exploring for a while, I found this incredible jungle island, and it was getting dark, so it was the perfect time to start making a base. And right away from this jungle island, I could already see a couple different biomes that had some dark oak and even some spruce. So I know I have a really great location for finding all the woods that I would need to build some incredible things throughout this series. I made some iron armor from all the iron that I found in the boats, and then I started working on just a little cave for me to get my base going. Weirdly enough, I found a small patch of grass inside this cave while I was digging, and so that gave me an idea to actually give myself a grass floor in this cave because I thought it could look nice and would also be very easy on materials early game. I collected some materials and then started work on the rest of my base. First thing I did was got a chest and some crafting and furnaces down so that I could actually get going on some mining and have plenty of room to store all my items. Then I began staircasing all the way down to Y11 so I could strip mine for some more diamonds. I wanted to get diamond armor immediately in this series because I knew it was going to be huge in order to help me survive. In this cave, I found my first mob of the series and dealt with him no problem. This really gave me a lot of hope for the rest of the series considering I took out a mob immediately with no struggle. Not too long after, I found some diamonds, and it was actually a 6th vein of diamonds, which was a great start and would allow me to get 2 diamond pickaxes. Not too long after, I found another set of diamonds, and then I even found a little mine shaft. I didn't feel prepared enough yet to go through the mine shaft, so I went and kept on digging elsewhere, found another vein of diamonds, and knew I was pretty set already for this series. I went ahead and went back to my base to drop off all my items and to create some diamond pickaxes so I could mine for a bit longer. I also did a little bit of base expansion while I was up there just to give myself a bit more room and made sure everything was lit up so I wouldn't have any problems with mobs. Diamonds were flowing very fast, and I was actually finding a lot at the beginning of this series. This right here was a complete 8 vein of diamonds, which is a great way to start making armor. I knew that not too long I would be completely set on diamond armor and tools. I also knew that I wanted to get enchanted as soon as possible so that I could have the best armor to protect me, because I am not the greatest Minecraft player and I know that I'm going to die if I don't have the best armor. So I started planting some sugarcane outside my base just to make sure that I was going to be good on paper when the time to start enchanting came. During this, I was greeted by a zombie, which I killed easily enough, but the best part about it was it dropped a carrot, and this was the perfect way to start off a small farm and get some food for the early game. So I went back inside my base, planted the carrot, and then I headed down into the mine again to get some obsidian. It was time for me to go to the nether, or at least build a nether portal. I didn't want to spend too much time in the nether yet, as I still didn't even have diamond armor. I had all the diamonds I needed, but I hadn't crafted it yet. I really wanted to get my first set of diamond armor all enchanted when I was actually going to make it. This portal was actually a great location. It spawned me right inside of a little cavern so that it was pretty protected. It had some quartz and glowstone right next to it, so I figured I'd collect those materials and then head back into the overworld. I really like the look of these shroom lights, and I decided I would use them a lot in my base, so I went back into the nether to get some, but I also ended up happening upon a fortress. And now this kind of worried me because I knew I was going to have to deal with blazes and even wither skeletons. Of course, I wanted a beacon very soon, but it's also very hard to fight them early game, so I went back into the overworld and started making some diamond armor. I figured that I was going to play this series extremely safe, as I've died way too many times in the past. After making some diamond armor, I didn't put it on yet because I wanted to enchant it first, but I went ahead and started looking for some cows so that I could get leather and start enchanting. I knew I was going to need a lot of leather, so my plan was to actually start breeding some cows and then bring them back to my base and breed them there so that I could continuously kill and get leather. From here, I think I spotted a pillager outpost and something off in this direction, so I decided to row my boat over here and do a bit more exploring. I really wanted to find a village early game so that I could get some villager trading going. I really hate dealing with villagers, so I figured if I got that out of the way in the early game of Minecraft, then I wouldn't have to deal with it later on and I could just work on farms and building like I enjoy. Not too far away from where I parked the boat, I did actually find a village, and it was perfect. It was very close, so I could easily transport villagers back to my base, and it of course had hay bales that I could use for some early game food, since I still didn't have a very efficient farm going and really only had a few carrots planted. And since I was already here, I decided why not steal a villager already. So I stole my first villager and went ahead, threw him in a boat, and started taking him back to my base. What I didn't really plan on was where I was going to put him in my base, so I didn't have anything set up when I returned and he just started roaming around the base. I tried making him a little room and finally, after a long time, got him in that room and boxed up so that he couldn't escape. I then dug out a little section, went back over to where I was breeding cows and captured my first cow in a boat and started bringing it back to my base as well. This guy I had a little room for built already because I was prepared after the villager. After going and getting the second cow, I had the perfect breeding system set up and could easily get leather for enchanting. Now I just really had to wait around for the cows to actually be able to breed and produce all the adult cows to get the leather. So I started working on some base improvements. I wanted the whole floor to be grass, and of course the cows wanted it as well. So I started laying down a grass floor, and then I started mining out some areas of the base so I could start building something bigger down here. My entire plan for this island is to actually cover it in different jungle ruins and things like that, but I also wanted a huge underground section of this base as well, and figured that's what I could do for my starter base. After mining for a bit, I figured that I should actually go and explore my world a bit more. I was a bit protected with iron armor and a shield already, so I felt pretty safe. I went where I found the village, and not too far away was actually a desert that had a desert pyramid. So I figured I should go loot it and hopefully get some golden apples. After exploring the oversized sandcastle, I went back to my base and started digging out a huge section. Over here is where I actually wanted to put a villager breeder and possibly move my cows later on once I had already gathered all the leather that I needed. I went ahead and went back over to the village so that I could capture another villager. After bringing the villager back, I started working on the actual breeder. I was using a super simple design built by Logical Geek Boy. If you haven't checked him out, definitely do. I'll try to link him down in the description below. He builds very simple automatic farms in Minecraft, one of which is a villager breeder. While doing all this, my enchantment table setup was finally complete. I got enough leather in order to create all these bookshelves, and I actually even stole some from a desert village as well, and so I went ahead and started enchanting. The first thing I enchanted was a couple of pickaxes because I figured those would be great ways of getting more diamonds. After enchanting a few picks, on day 13 I finally got a Fortune 3 pickaxe and was able to go mining again for a ton of new materials. I ended up bumping into an amethyst geode, which is going to be a great way to get tinted glass and of course the spyglass later on. I then returned to working on my villager breeder after doing a ton of mining. My resources were really starting to pile up. I seemed to be making great progress and was getting a ton done in this early game. I got a couple pieces of armor enchanted up and even got the villager breeder setup done on top. I still had to work on the water pathways and get this thing opened up, but I wanted to get all the potatoes laid down first, and then I would start working on the bottom as well. After getting that done, I went ahead and moved the cows over since I already had the leather I needed and I didn't need a ton of them anymore. I was of course going to save them for future projects where I still needed leather, but I didn't think I needed them right next to my base where they were making a ton of noise. To finish up the villager breeder, I just had to place a couple signs and get some water down so that I could get the villagers flowing away from the actual area. This right here would hold the adults, and that long stream in the middle is where the children would be. Once they turn into adults, they grow up and can then go into the top water flow. This is a super simple design. It was extremely easy to make, so really shout out to Logical Geek Boy for that. Definitely a great villager breeder for this area. And now, having been a while, I can say this thing works insanely efficiently. Right here is the first kid that was born here, and he basically ran straight into this system, so it works perfectly. The way this system works is it uses the function where the villager children want to actually go to the bed and jump on it, so the villager tries to jump on the bed and instead falls down into the hole. I then started work on the rest of my base, trying to get all the floor turned into grass as well, because I just thought it would look nice and it was super easy early game. I figured I would change it up later on, but for now this was my best decision. I then returned to the nether to get some materials because I wanted to make a lot of my base out of the warped wood, but I figured while I was also in this biome I could get some ender pearls as well so I could start working towards going to the end. I built a little 2-block cave in order to protect myself from the Enderman, since if you've seen the last series I did, an Enderman is actually what killed me in my last hardcore world, and I wanted to prevent that before I was completely set up with enchanted armor and a sword. I killed a few Endermen, got an Ender Pearl, and then returned back to my base. Before going in though, I of course got caught up by the beautiful sunset that was happening, but then I went in and got to work. I went and checked out the villager breeder and it was already working great. It was having a slight problem though. Not all the adults were going into the stream, and it seemed that they were getting caught up in the edge. That was definitely something I was going to have to work on later. By day 25, I went back into the nether and started looking for some netherite, or ancient debris. I really wanted to get the best armor in the game so that I could protect myself because, as I said before, really not the greatest player, and I definitely need that netherite armor. I do have a great system for finding ancient debris, and it actually started working pretty well because I started finding a couple pieces. The way that I mine for ancient debris is I go down to Y14 and then I look at the chunk borders and mine exactly in between two so that I have double the chance of finding netherite. I ended up with 6 ancient debris and went home to empty my inventory and then saw the strangest thing. I did not know that hoglins did this. I've never seen it before and I haven't seen it since. I don't know if this is actually a feature or a glitch, but I thought it was very cool to see. I then headed back to the fortress in order to get some wither skulls. I figured I really wanted a beacon very soon. Not only was it going to help me mine out my base, but it was also going to be great for mining in general. I then decided to head home and grab a bow real quick so that I didn't have to deal with the blazes as much. So then I started killing wither skeletons, trying to get the 3 heads I needed to fight the wither. It felt like forever, but finally I got my first wither skull, and I would like to throw in that I was using a looting 3 sword, so it was a lot quicker. I then finally, after a long time later, got the 3rd skull I needed, and after having to deal with the rest of these withers, I went ahead and got back to my base in the overworld. Back here, I started working on laying some deep slate for the floor of my base. Deep slate is a brand new block to Minecraft and looks insanely nice, so I really wanted to use it in this base. I also captured an axolotl in the mines and then watched a villager child say goodbye to his parents and jump straight into the water. Of course, 6 ancient debris wasn't enough, so I returned the nether to keep mining for ancient debris. I really wanted to get that full set of netherite armor and some pickaxes very soon, so I then used the TNT that I had found from the desert pyramids that I had raided and started doing some TNT mining as well. I then returned home to my base, crafted up some potions, and got ready to fight the wither. I wasn't the best at this fight, so I wanted to do it in the safest way possible, so I did it in an underground mine. Unfortunately, he did actually end up flying up into the mine a little bit and made it a little tougher, but I ended up killing him with no problem. I will definitely be fighting a lot more of these guys later on, but the first fight went great and I survived no problem. So I then returned back to my base, crafted up the beacon, and then started working on some other portions of my base. I wanted this whole walkthrough area to be covered with some very cool walls, so I started working by placing some stairs to really outline this walkway. Of course, there were some chests in the way and things like that, but I wanted to move all those materials before I actually destroyed the chests. I then decided to go beacon mining for the first time and started work on actually getting the beacon laid out. I put it right into the floor at Y11 so that I could do all the normal mining that I normally do. Unfortunately, I didn't have quite enough resources to make a full beacon, but I was able to get haste 1, which did speed up the process of mining out my base a little bit. This whole area that I was mining out right here was going to be my starter base's storage room. The first thing I had to work on though was the walls, and I had come up with a few designs in a creative testing world to really get what I wanted. This wasn't the final design that I went with, but I knew that I wanted to include some shroom lights and also some warped wood to make it really have some color that goes well with the deep slate. Even though I had done some testing in a creative world, I didn't end up liking the design that I went with initially, so I put some warped wood behind these trapdoors to see if I liked that. It still wasn't quite right, but it definitely was a step in the right direction from just the plain deep slate tiles behind the wall. Next, I started messing with some designs for the roof and came upon one I really liked, which was this crimson wood along with the deep slate bricks. I then decided I needed to rework the front door so it wasn't just this plain door in the wall, and add a little type of ruin to it. I didn't want to put too much work into this though, because I was planning on adding a redstone door later on, so this was really just a temporary design that made it look a little bit nicer. That being said, this design looks absolutely awful and I really can't wait to change it. I finished up a lot of the walls, decided to put some of the warped wood in the center of the walkway as well, and then even started working on the floor of the storage room. Having been doing a lot of building and designing, I decided to go mining again to try to find some more diamonds and also get some more deep slate for the base. I ended up happening upon a mob spawner, so that's great, and I can hopefully use this for a copper farm or something similar later in the future. I ended up getting tons and tons of resources that I collected all with Silk Touch, and then I built them up and destroyed them all with Fortune, not only to get levels, but to get all the insane loot that I got. And of course, since this took a while, phantoms eventually spawned because I still haven't slept yet in this world, so that was pretty fun to deal with, but I did manage to get down and not have to worry too much about them. I collected tons and tons of iron, so hopefully I am now able to finish up and get a haste 2 beacon. And while I'm up here, might as well look around and enjoy the view, of course. Next up, I crafted a brand new set of diamond armor, and this was actually the armor I planned to turn into netherite later on, but first I wanted to get all the god armor enchantments on it that I needed. So the next phase that I needed to do was to get all those villagers into a villager trading system. And for a bit of reference of how much resources I got in that last mining trip, all these furnaces were full of iron, and then I filled them all with copper and gold. I then took all those iron blocks back down and finished up the beacon, so now that I have a full haste 2 beacon. I then decided to go back and actually check on the villager breeding process, and I had a ton. There was actually too many to even fit in one space, and they were constantly shooting out across all the water. I figured the only thing I could do was to turn this villager breeding system off and then start actually putting these villagers into the trading hall. I already had plans of where I wanted to put this, and that was actually right next to the storage room, actually across from the storage room and right next to where I had the villager breeder set up. During all this though, I decided I needed more netherite, so I went on a little expedition again to find some more ancient debris, and fortunately came home with a good stack of it that time as well. While planning out the villager trading hall, I also realized that I needed something to actually trade with the villagers, and the easiest thing to do that would be to create an automatic melon farm. So I gathered some redstone materials and then headed down to the haste 2 beacon mine area where I was actually going to build the farm. I'm not sure who created this design originally, but it's a super simple observer and piston farm that's all collected by a hopper minecart. Now that that was up and running, I started working on my actual villager trading hall. I built up some stuff on the inside and then started routing the villagers exactly into all their positions. Another great part of Logical Geek Boy's design is he specifically designed it so that you could easily get villagers out and into the areas that you wanted simply with minecarts. So after just a few minecarts and breaking all the rails, I was able to get the villagers I wanted in place. I decided to start out I only needed farmers and librarians, so I got these barrels in place and also some lecterns on the other side. I then decided I also needed some potatoes and carrots for the villager trading as well, so I built up a villager based automatic potato and carrot farm, which is super easy. The only problem is I built the 2 square design that is really not that efficient if you're trying to do villager trading. It's great if you're just trying to feed yourself in your survival world, but it doesn't produce enough to actually trade with villagers consistently. This little farm was extremely quick to set up. I obviously had a lot of work to do on the outside to make it all look nice, but the farm was up and running and actually started producing potatoes and carrots. I then started work on my storage room as well. I needed some areas for mass storage, so this whole side is for all the things I'm going to have a lot of, and the other side will be some smaller things. Over here I started work on actually getting the trades that I wanted, and this process was super annoying. It took a lot of work of trading out villagers to get exactly what I needed. Even the farmers I had to trade out to get the potato and carrot trades that I would need early on. Fortunately, all villagers get the melon and pumpkin trades later, so that would be extremely easy. As you can see here, this farm is producing potatoes and carrots, but really not a lot, so it was definitely going to take a while to get anything worth trading. I got this whole side lined up for librarians, and the other side I actually decided to switch out the last 5 of them for some various trades, just so that I would have those as well. Working with villagers definitely takes a very long time, especially to get all the trades you want. Fortunately for me, I was able to get some very great villagers that had Fortune 3, Efficiency, and even Unbreaking. And by day 69, I had already accidentally let a zombie in that infected a villager, but fortunately for me it was a farmer and I was able to cure him, and now he has extremely cheap trades. Not too long after, I stopped paying attention again and 3 of my villagers got infected. This might be a little bit unfortunate, but it is great to actually have these cheaper trades, so it worked out in my favor. The next project that I really wanted to finish up was the project of my storage room. I had a lot to do, not only in detail work behind all these chests, but also in fixing up the floor, the roof, and getting all the chests and barrels in place. As that project started to finish up, I decided to actually go down and build a pumpkin farm as well as the melon farm, because I really wanted to get the maximum amount of emeralds that I could from these villagers. And of course, while actually going and working on that, I let another zombie into my base that got 5 of my villagers this time. The problem that I kept doing was leaving my back door open, and that allowed the zombie to just walk in and infect the villagers whenever I was down in my mine. This melon farm was producing a ton of melons, and I regularly collected it, brought the melons back up so that I could trade with the villagers, and then I finally got the pumpkin farm finished up as well. Not only did my mine provide a great space for building small ugly farms, it also had a slime chunk in it, so I started to get some slime spawns, which was going to be great for all the auto things I wanted to do later on. Next, I got my first netherite item, which was actually my Fortune 3 netherite pickaxe, and then I went ahead and did my silk touch pickaxe as well. Mining is the most important thing for getting the other materials, so I figured I'd do those first. I then continued work on my storage room, putting areas for all the items that I thought I would need. I did wood variants, logs, gravel, everything that I could think of, and put item frames on the front so I could organize it all. I then started working on my god armor as well, and managed to get my boots with some major enchantments. The only thing I had to finish up was getting the protection 4 on them. I of course started turning all my armor into netherite armor, and the last piece I had to do was my helmet. But first I had to go out and find the ender portal, because day 100 wasn't too far away, I think 12 days at this point, so I really need to start finding the ender portal so that I can do that on day 100. The portal ended up only being about 600 blocks away, which was great. It was very easy to get to. I dug a path straight down to the stronghold so I could easily get back up and then return later on day 100 when I was going to enter the portal and fight the dragon. It didn't even take that long to find the portal room. Usually it takes me a long time, but I came down pretty close to the actual portal. I actually needed one more Eye of Ender to complete the portal, so I put in all the others that I had and figured I could do the last one when I came back to fight the dragon. I returned back to my base with the goal of finishing up parts of my base and also getting prepared for the Ender Dragon fight. The first thing I did was to brew up some potions, and then I finished off my netherite gear by placing on my hat. Got the achievement Cover Me in Debris and now had full netherite armor. This was day 85, and I had already done a ton by this point. I had full netherite god armor, all the tools that I would need, and also had even a haste 2 beacon. Not to mention my full villager trading hall and an easy way to get emerald. I of course still had a ton of work to do on my base though before I went and fought the dragon. The first thing I had to do was to actually finish up my storage room, which ended up poking out into the outside world, so I had to do a little bit of terraforming on the outside just to make it all look nice and clean and like the mountain it was supposed to be. After a bit of work though, I got this area pretty much finished up. This whole side was going to be things that I had a little bit of, and the other side was the mass storage. Of course, this wouldn't last forever, and eventually I would have to build a much bigger storage system, but this was perfect for my starter base. I also was able to get the protection for enchantment on my socks, and then I went up and started work on where I was going to put my enchanting table. So I mentioned before that I wanted to cover the entire island in jungle ruins, and the first step of that was to actually build my enchanting room up on top of the mountain where I live. I had also grown so much stronger since starting this series. I was able to even take out Enderman now, unlike the last series I did where I couldn't even handle one Enderman. A lot had changed, and I was definitely going to survive a long time in this world. Up here on top of the mountain is where I'm actually going to build the enchantment area. I want to build it like a small altar up here and have it look kind of ruined and decayed with a lot of different stone variants. Before doing that, however, I had another project I wanted to do. I could not stand the front door of this base anymore, so I had to change it up before it drove me crazy. Not only did it look bad, but I also wanted this area to be a 3x3 redstone door that you could access by the press of a lever. The design I actually used for it was a design that Mumbo Jumbo showed off that he didn't actually design, so I'll try to link that video in the description below so you can go and check it out for yourself. This door is fast and easy to build, so I highly recommend it for any 3x3 redstone door that you want in your world. You do have to have space all immediately around this, but if you have that area, you can definitely make this thing in your own world. And as you can see, it opens up super easily. All I have to do is close off the front of this and actually make it look nice. After a little bit of redstone work, I got this hooked up to a lever both inside my base and outside my base, so I could close it up and it looks super nice. This and doing some designs on the altar for the enchantment table took me all the way until day 99, so now there was only one thing left to do before day 100. I loaded up with some potions, jumped in my boat, and started heading over to the stronghold. It was now time to fight the Ender Dragon. Definitely one of the biggest tests of my hardcore experience yet. I had already beat the Wither though, so I felt really good about this, especially since I already had great armor. I loaded up with potions of slow falling and some strength and swiftness just to make this fight a little easier. Unfortunately, I did let a silverfish through, but the good thing was I did spawn underground, so I didn't get knocked off the island. I went ahead and dug up and then started the fight with the Ender Dragon. This fight was going super well, and I even accidentally managed to collect some dragon's breath and realized that I should probably collect some more of it just while I was here. The fight went super well, and because I had potions of slow falling, I basically had no problems at all defeating the dragon. It threw me up once or twice, but I landed softly and was able to kill the dragon just above the portal. It was still day 99 and I had time to go ahead, head home, and watch the sunrise on day 100. I collected the XP from the dragon and then jumped through the portal. I knew that I'd be back very soon to jump through one of the other portals and go ahead and get an elytra and some shulkers. There it was, the sunrise on day 100. Not only did this part take 30 hours to get to, I had died in multiple other attempts of playing hardcore Minecraft, so it definitely took a long time to get here. And would it really be Minecraft if I weren't trying to watch the sunset and then got attacked by a couple of phantoms? That being said, my bow shots were getting insanely accurate, and I was so happy with how far I'd come in this hardcore series. If you want to check out the rest of this hardcore series, be sure to tune into the Almost Average channel. The link is down in the description below. That is where I will be doing the playthrough of the series and probably posting the rest of these milestone videos. Thank you guys so much for watching this video if you guys made it this far. It took a long time to record and it was a ton of fun doing it, and I'm super excited to be playing hardcore Minecraft now. It is a ton of fun. It of course takes a ton of work and it's pretty scary trying not to die, but I'm so glad I've made it this far, and I think it's going to be a lot easier now that I am completely armored up and can work on the projects I want to. I really can't wait to start the project on this island, get this whole thing covered in ruins, and I have some pretty major projects already lined up as far as automatic farming goes, so it's definitely going to be a very interesting season. Go ahead and tune into my channel if you guys want to watch that though. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.